Two of the following videos are true while the other one is trash. Can you spot the fake? Season 2, Episode 7. Round 1, let's begin. If you take a charger block and push it against certain painted walls, it will just stay up on its own. This also works with other objects with flat surfaces like these pencils. If you take sunscreen and rub it into your hands and then use a thermal camera, you can see how the sunscreen blocks harmful infrared waves from the sun and prevents you from getting sunburned. First, take 5 bowls and fill every other bowl with water. Add red food dye to one, yellow to another, and blue to the final one. Mix them so they look like this. Then take some paper towels and fold them into 4 long, thick strips. If you connect the water bowls to the empty bowls using the paper towels and wait a few hours, the dyed water will travel up the paper towels and mix into the empty bowls, creating bowls of water with new color combinations. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought you couldn't stick random objects to the wall by sliding them strongly, you'd be wrong. Why does this work? Well, there's some debate, but I think the best explanation is that the friction heats up the paint, making the paint stickier. Using a thermal camera, you can see that there's definitely a heat spot when you take the object off the wall. This experiment was also real, and here's a cool time lapse of it happening. That means this video was fake. A thermal camera measures temperature using the infrared spectrum. To get this shot on the thermal camera, I just held a block of ice for a little while to make my hands very cold. Here's a quick summary to recap before moving on to the next round. Next up, it's time for round 2. First up, take a cereal that is high in iron and add some water and blend it up. Then take this mixture and put it into a plastic bag and close it. Then take a strong neodymium magnet and slowly rub it all over the outside of the plastic bag, trying to expose the magnet to as much cereal as possible. If you're careful enough, you can see the iron pile up and you can move it around with the magnet. If you take a multicolored balloon like this and a magnifying glass, you might have a hard time popping the balloon when you focus the sun on the yellow part of the balloon, depending on the strength of the sun and the magnifying glass. However, if you focus on the black part of the balloon, it will pop much more easily. If you flush a toilet in the northern hemisphere, it will rotate counterclockwise, but if you're in the southern hemisphere, it'll rotate clockwise. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. If you thought I just poured iron filings into this bag of cereal because you saw it here on the counter, you'd be wrong. This is a legitimate way to see the iron in cereal. And here's what it looks like under a microscope. This video is also real. Darker colors absorb more light and therefore get hotter. Here's what it looks like using a thermal camera. Although the direction a hurricane spins depends on the hemisphere, the direction your toilet spins does not, and it's just based on which way the jets are facing. Here's a quick summary to recap before moving on to the next round. Now it's time for the final round, round 3. If you drop large, dense objects off of a boat into a pool of water, the water level will technically rise slightly due to the object displacing water. Next, a regular air balloon is quite vulnerable to an open flame and pops as soon as it touches. However, if you add a little bit of water inside the balloon, the water will prevent the balloon from popping and can even touch and extinguish the flame. Lastly, start by getting some ice and pouring it into an ice chest. Then add some water to be able to mix it more easily, and then add a ton of salt. Let this mixture sit for a while so that the temperature stabilizes at the mixture's new melting point, which because of the salt should be a few degrees below 0. Next, add a few bottles of purified water submerged in the mixture and leave them for a few hours. Then if you carefully take one out, open it and pour it onto an ice cube, the ice will instantly freeze and make a mound of slush. You've seen all 3 videos now. Pause to vote in the comments which one you thought was fake. This experiment is legit and in my opinion super cool. Instead of pouring the water, you can also whack the bottle and watch as the water instantly freezes inside. These experiments work because the water has been super cooled to below its freezing point but hasn't actually turned into a solid yet. Then you can trigger it into changing phases with either an abrupt jolt or by adding some already solid chunks to provide sites for nucleation. Supercooling is not unique to water. Gallium should be a solid metal at room temperature because its freezing point is just above room temperature. However, as you can see here, I poured warm gallium into this mold and let it cool overnight, yet it was still a liquid the next day. It was only after I added a few chunks of solid gallium that the rest of it froze. It's also true that a balloon with water won't pop on a small candle flame. That means this video is fake. Rather than increasing the water level, dropping a dense object off of a boat technically lowers the water level. This might seem unintuitive, which is why I just released a separate video explaining and showing it in an exaggerated real-life demo. Check that out if you're interested in learning more. Thanks for watching to the end, and I'll see you next time.